Welcome everyone, this is VG.Cantina, the video game podcast. I am your host, M, and let's talk about some video games. Not a lot of news came out today, Friday. Granted, nothing too normal, because usually any sort of news that comes out on Fridays is mostly, I guess, considered negative, so that it gets lost in the news cycle or whatever. So we just have two beats of news here for you. The first one, it's just kind of like regular news. It looks like they released some Steam Deck reservation queue sizes or whatever it might be. Basically, how many people are reserving some of these Steam Decks that we talked about yesterday. And I think the only thing that we have here, at least from what it seems, is for the 512 gigabyte model. So for the US, that is 50,000. For the EU, 8.4 thousand, and then for Great Britain, I think, is 7,000. So that's some pretty good numbers, I think, especially for the 512 gigabyte model, because that, I believe, is the most expensive model. So I can only imagine that the smaller 64 gigabyte model could be quite large. Also, it looks like we have some more. I think in NA they also have a 256 gigabyte model, which had 28,000 reservation. In the EU for that same model, 5K, and I don't see one for the UK. So yeah, so that's some pretty good numbers, I think, for a new, I guess, quote unquote system coming out. That looks like a pretty healthy player base. Granted, it is just really PC and PC on the go, but I think that's some good numbers. They're obviously not going into the millions or whatever, but I think that's a fairly good start, and hopefully that encourages more backing of this product. Because, like I said, any competition for the Switch is good, because it'll lead to or hopefully lead to Nintendo, trying to create a better product. That's for that news. And the real news, which is what I was talking about the negative thing, is that we have two delays. Both of them are going to be coming from Ubisoft. The first one is Rainbow Six Extraction. It looks like it has been delayed to January 2022. And Riders Republic, which has been delayed to October 28th instead of September 2nd. So the obvious one, Rainbow Six Extraction. I don't know. I'm not really big into Rainbow Six. If anything, I just kind of thought it was an add-on into Rainbow Six Siege, but clearly I don't think it is. But it seems like it's a big game for them, and they have delayed it for about 6-7 months. Hopefully they are able to get that out and have a big thing with that, because I think some people are pretty excited for that game. It just kind of looks like an Aliens type game. And then Riders Republic, the game I always keep forgetting, it's some kind of BMX snowboarding extreme sports type thing, has been moved to October 28th instead of September 2nd. So that's only like 2 months of a delay. That seems like a pretty interesting delay. I feel like, now obviously I'm not a game developer or anything like that, far from it, but a 2 month, or not even 2 month, 1 3/4 of a month delay seems pretty weird. Just because I know that you can get a lot of stuff done with a month in game development, that much I know, but I feel like if you were going to delay a game, at least delay it a little bit farther, because I don't think there was a lot of people excited for this game, and you really don't want to have a rushed product. So if you're going to delay the game, delay it. I don't mean delay it an entire year, but I feel like you can delay it at least to February of next year if Rainbow Six Extraction is going to release on January. But they just decided to do that. Again, these two games I'm not really interested in, just because I'm not too interested in what Ubisoft has to offer. Mostly on principle of things. I don't like how a lot of their games tend to be lean towards loot box or spending extra money that even though you've already bought the game. And it seems like with a lot of their games, it kind of is tailored towards that. And both of these games, I can see them having a lot of that. Maybe not at first, but definitely after all the reviews have gone out, I can see that being added in. But though that is basically the news that we have for today. Again, not too busy. So now let's go on to the main topic of this show. And I think we got a good bit to talk about because I got some announcements of myself. So obviously the channel is called VG.Cantina.Podcast. So mainly this channel is about doing podcasts. But this is the 8th podcast that we have on this channel. And I have become a little bit more comfortable speaking in front of a mic. And I thought, you know what? I got this idea in my head. I'm going to start doing some video game playthroughs. Now, I'm not the most tech-savvy person in the world when it comes to like doing videos and whatnot. In fact, every time I see people have their video editing tools and audio editing tools, I always just kind of feel nauseous because of all the things that are going on that screen. Granted, it's probably a lot easier than what it looks like. But I'm going to be breaking into the Let's Play scene. I say breaking in, but in reality, it's probably just going to be releasing some videos at no views. But it's something that I thought about, and the reason why I'm deciding to do that is because I have this idea that I kind of like. Basically, I'm going to do a playlist or play series called the Neanderthal series or something like that, maybe Neanderthal playthroughs. Basically, I'm going to have a couple games. Obviously not in rotation, gonna play a game all the way till finish. But just games that I don't usually play, or games that I haven't played in forever, or games that I'm just not good at, and kind of just struggle with it. Just kind of be stupid about it. It's mostly probably going to be a lot of indie titles. And they're all going to be on the PC because I don't really have a capture card currently for capturing, on the PlayStation or on, the Switch. But we'll start off small. So I have an indie title kind of lined up that I'm going to be trying out, and most likely failing over and over, just butting my head against the wall like a Neanderthal. See where I'm going with it, and we'll see what it's going through. Or how it turns out. Hopefully it turns out fine, but adding more variety to the channel I think is pretty good because it'll get more people to see it, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, that is my news, and we will be segueing into the next portion of this, which is indie titles. I love the indie scene in the gaming sphere, I guess. I know it seems like the AAA scene is starting to get a little bit more bloated. You're starting to see, AAA games have always taken quite a long time to make, obviously, but it just seems like they're kind of, I don't want to say wearing down, but it just seems like they're becoming less and less prevalent, or less and less important to the gaming scene. I don't know if it's just me or just me having bad opinions or whatever, but with all that being said, and with kind of COVID happening and kind of the sparseness of these AAA, maybe that's also why the indie scene throughout these years have kind of been increasing in the games they've been putting out, as well as the quality of a lot of these games. Before you'd have just a couple gems in the rough with the indie scene, but now it seems like more and more indie games are kind of putting out some pretty good games recently, and I don't know. I'm really excited to go through this playthrough series because I'm going to be looking up a whole bunch of indie games and whatnot. Obviously not like unknown indie games, kind of like the popular ones. Like my first episode of this playthrough series is going to be Titan Souls. I did play that game way back, and I'm just kind of revisiting it. I obviously don't remember anything about it. I just know it's kind of like Shadow of the Colossus type deal. So we're going to look into that. That'll be the first game. And then maybe the next game, and this is where I'm going to go with this thought, is, the whole thing with indies and that. It seems like a majority of these indie games are either like a pixel style type of game, maybe because it's a very simple style to do, or a roguelike. It seems like those two are very prevalent in the indie scene, almost dominating in a lot of the things that indie developers have decided to go with. And I've been thinking that the second game after I finished Titan Souls, and I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, is I've been looking through all these roguelikes because I was looking through indie titles in general. And one that I saw that I also tried out way back, but I didn't really even get past the first level because I was using a Steam controller, and the Steam controller is complete garbage and just completely pushed me off of that game. Is what's it called? Gungeon. There you go, Gungeon. So we'll see how that goes. But obviously, first I'm going to go with Titan Souls, and I'm hoping to have a good time. I'm hoping to see maybe I can increase viewership from 0 on this channel to something with these Let's Play titles. Because I know just making podcasts, if you don't have a audience, they're kind of hard to get out there. And since there's not really anything I can kind of focus on with these podcasts in terms of like specific games, I don't have a very specific audience I can reach out to. But if I'm playing these indie games, hopefully the fans of those games or whatever might just come across my Let's Plays and at least take a look at it. And that's all I can really ask for. And you know what? I've been thinking. Before all this YouTube thing, I was kind of looking into making my own game because I was, like I said, I've always been interested in video games. And I'm looking back at all this information I have. Obviously, I've done work towards my goal of making a game, and I've just realized how difficult it is. I have like an idea. I have done a lot of, I guess you can say, concept art. Granted, it's very terrible art, but it's still something. I've mapped out kind of like a plot for the story of the game. I have looked into very basic coding on a very basic engine for pixel art, because like I said, it seems like pixel art is a fairly, I mean, it's not easy in like a negative way and like, oh, anybody can do it, but in terms of like art design or whatever, pixel art seems to be a little bit more forgiving when you're doing something with it. Because obviously if you do like just animated art or whatever, it, if it looks bad, it looks bad. But if you do pixel art, you can kind of, you can kind of have a little bit more leniency in how it looks because, it's essentially just pixels in a form of whatever you're trying to make. And looking into it, there are some rules in pixel art, about how to make lines or whatever, or how to color or shade certain things, or how to create animated versions of a pixel character. But all in all, I think I think it's fairly simple, at least to start off with. Obviously, to get good at it, it's extremely it can be extremely difficult, but that's kind of what I looked at. And obviously creating a game in an engine, when I was practicing with that, it was difficult. I mean, I made headway, but I kind of hit a wall where, it's kind of that joke when you see people who code make the joke where, they move one thing and all of a sudden everything breaks. And I can tell you, yeah, that's really real. Cause, I was following this guide of, how to, make a game, and, this program, has a pre-made game where you make it and they provide you everything and they tell you how to code. And I messed up one thing, and I tried to look into to these lines of code that I had, and I just couldn't see what was wrong, and everything just broke. And I was kind of tired at that point because I didn't want to restart everything all the way back to square one. So I just kind of stopped there. I still kind of know how to do things, but that definitely stopped my run-in with creating a game. Obviously, I still have these thoughts. Obviously, I have still kind of not kept up with it, but I have added and changed some stuff about the game that is in my head. So I at least have, and I think it's made some pretty good advancements. Obviously, the one thing I don't have is the coding knowledge. So unfortunately, I don't have any of that. And not obviously, but also my artwork is pretty bad. I think pixel art wise, though, I think I've actually improved quite a bit. I remember when I first started, I made these very simple, almost like PowerPoint presentation type of animated pixel art. But then I kind of moved back and kind of focused just on just very simple sprites or pictures, and it has increased a lot. And I got to the point where I started making essentially what's the word, like isometric designs and stages with pixel art, and it went pretty well. Obviously that stopped when I stopped coding, because I just felt like a really heavy wall, and I kind of got pushed back and discouraged and kind of took a break, and then I moved on to this, but immersing myself in these games and whatnot, it's kind of renewing my fire for that, and I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously I'm not going to go into it now, but because I have this and I really want to focus on this, because I really want to pursue this, not as a job or anything, obviously, but as a hobby or a project. And with a lot of things that I've started, I always kind of stopped abruptly. But I think with this, I like doing this. It can be frustrating at times, but I like this. I like doing this. It has kind of ignited some previous passions that I had, and has gotten me to look into a lot of things. And this conversation has completely derailed because we were talking about indie titles. So let's go back to that. Let's go back to indie titles. What else is there to say about indie titles? I guess it's interesting to see a lot of these games kind of be made and come out. Because as a gamer, I guess, you play these games and you judge these games, and I know there's always this kind of I don't know if it's called like a bad faith argument or like a straw man or something. I'm not really good at kind of naming those types of things. But when someone says, "Oh, well, why don't you try making a game?" Obviously, that's not a really good argument, because you're not meant to make a game. You're meant to play the game and see how it feels. But man, when you really go in and try and make a game, you really see kind of like the absolute difficult, skill it takes, or the how difficult it is to make a game. And the fact that some games, even bad games, come out is amazing to me, because I can't even essentially lift off from even creating an open level in a game, a single level. So seeing a lot of these indie games or small games come out, and even though some might be bad, I think it's really cool to see them come out. I remember looking at some help forums for that, and it seems like a lot of indie developers or whatever kind of started out just by making games, like not even like having a project in mind, just make a game, like a game. Like there's these things called game jams, where you're given a certain topic for a game. Like, let's say your game has to involve newspapers or something, or your game has to be a platformer, or your game has to be on a bike or something. And these developers or whatever just and they're also given a time, like, all right, you have a day to make it. And it's not like a job or anything. It's like, hey, everyone, just make a quick game based on this subject in an hour or something. Maybe that's too short. And they just do it, and they kind of post it on the little forum, and everybody looks at it, and they see who's the best is. And I've heard some indie developers talk about that and how that really helps, because sometimes you just got to do it. Kind of like with these YouTube videos I'm making. Obviously they're not the best. Obviously they weren't heavily pre-planned. Obviously, I did some planning, and I kind of I think I did hard work in trying to figure out even how to start with what I had, without spending too much money on all these things. And in the end, it's just just do it, go with it, learn on the way, and just try and fix as you go. And that's what I'm gonna do with my playthrough series. But anyways, back to the indie thing, is where they just do it, and they they release the game, and it's kind of like muscle memory, or like doing weights or practicing art or something. Just do it and just keep doing it, and you'll slowly get better at it. and sometimes even, you'll learn from other developers who are doing the game jam, where like, you did something but someone else did something, and you learn from them, and you don't like obviously plagiarize them, but you get inspirations from a lot of these people that drew in a lot of these things, and you see what they do, and maybe something they did you didn't know you could do, and now you can do it. And it's all about the learning experience and the community and those types of things, because with how difficult developing games are, especially when you're an indie developer, there is that kind of community where you find a whole bunch of these people, you just make these random games, and it's a nice group of people that learn from each other, that kind of have their same goal or same passion in making games, and I think that's really cool. So it's just kind of given me a bigger appreciation for games in general. Like I've always, before I liked to, I don't want to say I liked, but I've always ripped on certain games, like why is this so bad or whatever, or how can this be a game? But I've kind of pulled back on that in playing even more games and looking into game development, and getting a greater appreciation for some things. Now obviously that doesn't mean like all these games get a free pass, because obviously at some point when you're making or essentially putting out games, there has to be like a line that you kind of draw in the sand from, like, oh, it's an okay, it's okay, it might be a little broken, to, man, this game's bad. And obviously not being hostile is definitely a line that you don't, or being hostile is a line you don't cross, but being ultimately forgiving in every single aspect, you can kind of go over that and kind of just say it how it is, and say this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and whatnot. You obviously don't attack the developers, you kind of critique the game itself. Obviously I think there are different like points in which you cross, because like obviously for indie developers, I don't think you can be too harsh on them, because I think it's pretty well known that they don't have a large budget, they don't have a large size of people that can just kind of focus on the game. There are certain things where like they can and can't do, but I think for AAA games you can be a little bit more harsher, because they have a bigger budget, they have more people, they should be able to make games properly. And I think the biggest example of that was Cyberpunk, with how terrible it came out, and how much they kind of lied to their audience. Oh, sorry about that. I wonder if the camera caught it, or mic caught that. Probably did. That was me sneezing. Don't worry, didn't sneeze into the mic. I covered it with my elbow. But back to what I was talking about. I think it was pretty fair to harshly criticize Cyberpunk for what it is, for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, the bugs and whatnot really aren't acceptable by the size that they are, even though they're technically an indie developer because they're independent, but they are a very large company. Also because they lied to the audience with how broken the game was, and how what state they were. They actively hid how the game looked up until people actually got their hands on it. But obviously sending like threats or threatening or being hostile to the developers, that definitely crosses the line, because you don't really know what's going on in their studio. It could be that maybe I highly doubt the devs did that. If anything, I think I remember the devs saying, the people that actually worked on the game, yeah, no, this was all upper management or like the higher ups, because they themselves knew this game was a trash fire. So I don't think it was most likely not them, but some people don't understand that, and they kind of push their anger on the devs, when in reality they had nothing to do with it. But all in all, games and game genres and the game studios that make them, that's just kind of the things I've been looking at and thinking about today. And like I said, I will be creating new videos, a new playthrough playthrough series on my channel. I think I'll have my first video go out tomorrow. Also, another announcement, a final announcement concerning the podcast. I think I found a way to create a good podcast scheduling, because I'm finding now that doing a podcast every single day, I don't have a lot to talk about, or whatever I do have to talk about or think about, I can't really properly give it a good amount of time. Even with this recording, I can see that I'm barely going to cross 25 minutes. And a lot of that was just me kind of talking about sort of meta things about the podcast and what I'm doing, and really not a lot about the topic that I had on hand with indies and whatnot. But looks like I'm going to do a podcast every other day. So obviously I do have a break on Sunday where I don't do a podcast, so I will have a podcast on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, maybe Saturday. We'll see how that goes. Definitely for sure no podcast on Sunday. I will be doing a podcast tomorrow as well. But we'll take a look at that. How would they go? So Monday, yes. Tuesday, no. Wednesday, yes. Thursday, no. Friday, yes. No. Is it because of the way that it goes? So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll figure it out. The basics of it is that I should be having one day off and then one day on with the podcast, and then hopefully on the days that I don't have the podcast, the video series of the playthrough of the games will be coming out. And that's really all that I have for news, announcements, and ramblings on the video game subjects of today. I want to thank you guys for listening so much. I will see you tomorrow. I will be doing a podcast tomorrow. I will not be seeing y'all on Sunday. You should be seeing the video I have pull up tomorrow, and everything should be fine and dandy. Hopefully everything goes clear. If it doesn't, we'll learn from it. This is a whole thing that I'm going with it. But to make a long story short, enjoy your night, enjoy your day, enjoy what you got to do.